Hi, this is the Social Gello with Angelo show. My name's Angelo. I'm a social scientist, surfer, martial artist, and a whole lot of other things. Coming to you live from Kasai City, Japan, the Social Gello with Angelo show.
What's up, and welcome to another episode of Social Gello with Angelo podcast. I'm here with Lazarus Hunter, coming out of Seattle, Washington. What can I say? Some awesome hair. I met him at the KSDI tournament, and he's a brown belt in Kajukenbo. He's also a black belt in Taekwondo, if I remember the conversation correctly. I don't do background checks, but I actually did meet him in person, which is rare for me because I hardly ever leave Japan. So something I gotta mention, like when I was younger, I had an afro. If I grow my hair any longer than this, it becomes what Puerto Ricans call pelo malo. I can't do anything with it. I can't make an afro. I can't do anything just does whatever the hell it wants. And then at one point I can have an afro. And that's like, I have nothing between here and here. I can have an afro or I can have just like, it looks like I just got out of bed no matter what I put in it. I can put some gel in it and I'll have like a Jerry curl. I think that's a little outdated.
Look, man, whatever makes you happy, man.
No, I just keep it short.
Like it, I love it. Yes, sir. I've heard that from so many people, bro. Like, people always, I used to have an afro when I was younger. I don't really believe 95% of the people. So I just, I just nod my head and laugh.
Well, once I got past the afro, I got my dreads.
Okay.
So yeah,
but dreads look nice.
Yeah, but you know what happens with dreads? Dreads and martial arts don't mix really well. Like, I'll tell you that right now. Grappling, jiu-jitsu with dreads is a mess. It is a mess. And then my sparring partner. Oh man, this guy, my sparring partner Mike, who towers over me. He would like to wait for my dreads to kind of get in my eyes, and that's when he'd pop me in the face every time. And I asked him, I was like, "Hey, how can I get faster? Like my reflexes. How do I stop you from doing this?" He's like, "Well, man, you're gonna want to tie up your hair. I don't know. I'm not gonna tell you to cut your hair, but what I'm doing right now is I'm just waiting for your hair to get in your eyes, and then that's when I get you." Like, exactly. Oh man, I don't know if that's an interesting technique you got there.
That's pretty high level, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's pretty high level.
So
I like that.
Lazarus, you were saying you come from a background of Taekwondo. What was the first martial art that got? And also, there's like a 3-part, 4-part, 5-part question thing. I'm gonna do right now. How old are you, man?
I'm 20. I turned 21 in September.
As a young man, most young men that I've talked to, mostly just all about doing MMA. It's either MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's the dominant narrative right now. And what I think is interesting about you is you kind of come in from a different traditional martial arts path. We'll get into whether you're going to do MMA later, but as of right now, you're doing more the traditional path, which is kind of rare nowadays. Most people want other stuff. So I guess for your martial arts journey, where did it start? When did you start training? And what style was it? And it doesn't have to be Kajukenbo. I'm not judging you.
Well, I started around the age of 2. I seen Enter the Dragon, and I just ran around the house all the time just doing martial arts moves and just imitating. I do music too, and that's how I started doing music. I just used to imitate, right? I used to listen to a lot of like Michael Jackson and stuff, and do his dance moves. That type of stuff, like when I was growing up, when I was very young, that's what influenced me to start doing the things I wanted to do. So I seen Bruce Lee for about 4 years. I just watched a whole bunch of kung fu movies and just learned moves that way. And then I got put into a class around 5 or 6. And I took old school traditional Korean Taekwondo under Master Tae Lee's lineage. And that's where I got my start at, really learning like techniques and how to get better, and like stretching and all the stuff that comes with Taekwondo. Now, just so people know, because I don't want to be one of these people that is false claiming a black belt, I have an honorary black belt in Taekwondo. And it's because I was so advanced, and, I didn't grow up with a lot of money. We couldn't pay for all the belt tests and stuff. So I learned advanced techniques. So by the time I was like 10 or 11, my master came in. He was like, "Look, if you can do this kick, that I can't even do, then I'll give you an honorary black belt. And I was like, okay. So I practiced the kick for 2 days and I got the kick down. He was like, whoa, like that's very, you're pretty elite. So he was like, we did like a little ceremony and stuff. And this was a while ago. This is like 10 years ago, like over 10 years ago. So yeah, it was a good little like eye opener for me. And then that school, I ended up not going to that school anymore, and I just trained by myself like the whole time. For years, I just practiced technique and like just got really, really good at just technique. Um, and then I moved into uh more like boxing, like street stuff, not necessarily like boxing for the ring, but like more like hands-on, like dirty boxing, like stuff like 52 blocks, jailhouse rock, that type of stuff, and learn how to throw hands decently. Met my sensei in high school, my karate sensei, sensei grandmaster, sensei Keith Sharp. He's pretty elite. He's in his 70s. He started training in the late 60s, and he gave me a lot of game on like morality, philosophy. Got me really into like historical stuff, martial arts, and then started teaching me Shorin-ryu and Shotokan. So then we got into that. I competed at the Kajukenbo World Championship in 2022. Uh, got a gold in point sparring. And then uh, like before that, I met Lenny Imperato, who is my Kajukenbo. I think he's a professor now, so he's my professor, and he taught me Kajukenbo. I got tapped in with the lineage, met a lot of grandmasters, learned a lot of stuff over these past 4 years training Kajukenbo. I was already very advanced before I even met them, so they kind of skipped me a lot of belts. I don't know like the culture around that in Kajukenbo, whether or not that's frowned upon or not. But and I don't want to get anyone in trouble, but I was very advanced and I started teaching classes and stuff because the kicks weren't up to par to my standard when I got to the dojo. So I was like, okay, let me help, people get their kicks right. So I started helping a lot of people get their kicks right. Those people went on to win Kajukenbo World Championships for the past 3 years in a row. And I just been coaching ever since I got injured a few years ago. I cracked my head open and I had to relearn how to balance. So
How'd
I
you
started teaching.
how'd you crack your head open?
I fell at work. Yeah, my apron got caught on something. And I flipped over and cracked my head on the. It's like kind of hard, like hard floor. Very very hard. If you ever been to Safeway, it's very hard floor. And I cracked my head open. I worked nights at Safeway for 3 years, and I learned a lot. It was not in a good neighborhood, so I learned a lot of like self defense application for martial arts, and gave me like really good real world experience, learning how to de escalate, learning how to handle people that have weapons or are mentally ill, um, and that really made me more of like a well rounded teacher now that I teach. Like I teach a lot. Like I don't really get to train as much as I would like to because I'm teaching all the time.
And then when you cracked your head open,
Hmm.
what did the doctors say as far as the amount of damage to your head? Was there any residual brain damage or anything like that, or what they say?
So I, so I, when I hit my head, it was bleeding. It was bleeding so much. And I was trying to finish my shift off, and they told me to just go home because it happened when I was working. And I got home, and I'm like dabbing it up, and it won't stop bleeding, and I pass out, and then I wake up, and like my parents are freaking out. They're, oh my gosh, like. So I passed out, and when I woke up, my parents were freaking out. They're like, "Okay, we got to take you to the hospital. I got stitches and stuff." And I didn't get any type of brain scan or anything. I just got stitches, and then for like a year and a half, I had very bad headaches and I couldn't sleep. And I was teaching myself how to rebalance again during
And
this
then,
time.
and I'm going to correct myself. I used the word brain damage. I meant brain trauma. That's my
Yeah.
bad.
Well,
Brain trauma. Because why am I saying this? Because in our
mhm,
field, and that's why I think it's interesting that you ended up with a traumatic head injury from work.
mhm.
Because I've ended up with several traumatic head injuries, which is why I said brain damage instead of brain trauma. I got my own
Yes.
fucking issues.
Yeah, we all do, man.
And it's from me, it's all fighting, being kicked in the head and stuff. But as you've seen, like a lot of the research coming out right now, and I've talked about this several times in the podcast because I have a background in psychology. So
Mhm,
I'm really interested in stuff that has to do with the brain.
mhm.
And they're talking about now that study with the soccer players and the football players. They're finding out that any type of even light head contact can have serious effects later in life. So that's why
Yeah.
I'm asking that question, because like you cracked your head open, you didn't get a
Mhm.
brain scan. The doctor didn't say much, but from everything you're telling me, that you lost your balance, you couldn't walk right, you had vertigo.
Mhm.
Um, all this is indicating a traumatic head injury.
Yeah, it's not the first time it's happened either. I've
I
cracked my
bet. I
head.
mean, if you're a martial artist, it's not. It's not. I'm sure it's
Well,
not the first time you've received head
yeah,
trauma.
yeah, I've definitely been hit in the head a lot, like a lot. Like I've been beat up thousands of, I tell people all the time, I've been beat up thousands of times. Literally, people don't understand. And what we do, I've been training my whole life. So like even when I wasn't like in the dojo, I was training, right? Finding people to spar with. I have uncles and stuff. Like I was talking to my uncle the other day. He was like he has like 32 fights undefeated. Um, I was talking to him last night. He was telling me that he fought full contact in like the 70s and the 80s. And he was like 32 fights undefeated, elite. And I didn't know this until yesterday. I was like, what? So like I've learned techniques from people like in my family and people that I know. Like one of my uncles, he trained Chinese Baihua in China. And he was telling me about root and structure and all this stuff. So like my martial arts background wasn't just Taekwondo. It was just meeting people and understanding that there's other styles. And that's why I took the traditional route. But when I got my head injury, I started really getting more into um like like rehabilitation, right? Like how do I rehabilitate myself without the hospital? And that led me on to doing research on psychology, doing research on neuroscience, doing research on physical therapy, all stuff that people go to the hospital for. And I did it all for myself, by myself, using like right foods and fasting and doing stuff that people is like outside the norm. A lot of science is coming out now, but like after I cracked my head open, like it was just added on to all the other times I cracked my head open. I've cracked my head open 3 times, right?
Okay. Well, how
So,
did you crack your head open the other two times?
so the first time I was very young, I was like 4, and I was like at my sister's elementary school, and there was like these pillars, and I was standing on top of the pillars because like all the other kids were doing it, but I was super young, and I was like trying to get up, and I slipped, and I cracked my head open. So I forgot which side it's on, but I got the stitches my last time right here, and I have a scar right here as well. And I cracked my head open that time, and then there was another time. It was after I got my yellow belt in Taekwondo. I was very excited, and it was raining. I live in Seattle. Everyone knows Seattle's the rain capital of the world. So I'm running down the driveway of my house, and I slip like it's pouring rain. I slip and I fly and I hit my head on the concrete. I think I hit my head on like this little rock. I cracked my head open there, and then fast forward, I went to this camp like with my elementary school, and I cracked my head open. I didn't crack my head open. I hit my head really hard, and like I got knocked out. This is the only time I ever been knocked out, by the way. I ran. I was running in the forest, and I tripped on a root, and then I flew up in the air, and I hit my head on a rock, and I woke up 5 minutes later. So there's like a lot of stuff doing in my head. So a lot of people wonder why I wear sunglasses inside. They think I'm trying to be cool. Yes, obviously I look amazing, but like um it's because like the light is too bright for me sometimes.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
Um
Sensitivity to
and
light. That's one of the symptoms of
yeah,
traumatic. Yeah, that's one of head trauma, man.
and then a
Yeah.
few months ago I passed out in the shower, It was just too hot. It was just too hot, and I got overheated. I passed out, and I went to the hospital a few days later, and I went to the ER. And they did all these blood tests. They like took all my metrics. They did everything, and I was there. And they got my brain scans back, and they're like, yeah, like it doesn't seem like you have any brain damage. I was like, what? I was there. I was like, I haven't been able to sleep at all. I've had headaches. I had headaches for almost 2 years. How do I not have any brain damage? They're like, well, if you do, it's not significant. It's not showing up on the scans. And like, but there is something wrong because you shouldn't be feeling like you're so young.
No, no, dude. Everything you're describing to me is CTE, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, long-term
Hmm.
brain degeneration from repeated head trauma, seen in athletes and veterans. But if you hit your head, I have it.
Hmm.
I have it. And what people don't realize, you said it earlier, like I got knocked out for the first time. A lot of people, and I know, I didn't know. I thought getting knocked out meant what you just said. You get hit, you pass out, you wake up, like you actually lose consciousness for a long period of time. It
Hmm.
wasn't until much later, after I retired from MMA, that when I started losing. I won all my fights up until I was like 30, 35, and I started losing. And when I started losing, I was losing to stuff that I was like, dude, I barely even got hit. I barely even got tapped. And the referee said I got knocked out. What the fuck? And I was getting mad at the referee for stopping the fight. And he's like, you got knocked out. I'm like, I didn't get knocked out. I got my knees a little wobbly. My knees were a little wobbly. That's all. I got my head rung. And then what I found out later was in the professional fighting world, I was fighting in an amateur setting, and it was a gateway. So if I won, they would offer me a pro fight. So I was fighting in the S class, and if I won enough fights in the S class, they would move me on. They'd move me on to a pro fight. And I was like, all right, I kind of want to try that. I At 35, it was stupid. I shouldn't have done it, but in retrospect. But what happened was, what I considered getting my head wrong was microseconds of losing consciousness. And even though I said I was fine, when I think back, I have gaps in my memory.
Mm.
So I was conscious. And then later I find out that, yeah, that's what they call a TKO. There's a KO and a TKO. A TKO is when the referee decides that you are no longer conscious, you're awake, but you're no longer really conscious of what's happening. And that's when you can get really hurt. That's when you can really get that last hit that sends you to the shadow realms, as they say on the internet.
Yeah.
So like I think I only got to the shadow realms never in fighting. It happened at
Mm.
same with me. I was a tow truck driver, and the closest thing I came was I hit my head on an iron bar.
Ooh.
There was an accident with a truck I was hauling, and I was setting up a chain, and an iron bar hit me in the top of the head. And I remember going down to one knee, and for 10 seconds I can hear people talking to me, but I couldn't hear a word they were saying. Like I was out. I was standing, but I was out.
Hmm.
But but yeah, that's why I'm asking these questions, because it really sounds like CTE, which is nothing to be fucked with at any age. And people always think, oh, it happens to combat veterans. It happens to, well, if you get hit head in the head enough, it'll happen, and then you have to work around it. So like right now, what you just said, like right now, you've been trying to work around it by doing fasting and all that other stuff. But really,
Hmm.
the hardest thing is going to be accepting the fact that you really got to be careful about accumulative head trauma and getting hit in the head, which is
And
rough.
that's yeah,
In what we do,
it is.
it's really
It
hard to
is.
avoid.
And that's what I started focusing a lot on. I appreciate my sensei because he was telling me like, you know, you can't spar. And I'll be like, sensei, like he's like, no, you can't. You just can't. And and that's what really it's kind of bittersweet because like it happened when I cracked my head open at work, it happened like right before the tournament, like 2 months before the tournament. And I was like at my peak. I was peak condition, bro. Like I looked like Bruce Lee. Like I was peak, crazy balance, my kicks, like everything was just like elite. And when that happened, I just I was like, I have two choices. I could be sad that I'm injured and I can't go because when I went to go get my stitches removed, I was like, hey, do you think like I can compete? And she was like, yeah, no. Like you said, you still got headaches and you can't sleep. I should have lied. I was like, I should have lied. Like I was trying to compete, and it just comes with becoming more mature. Like I didn't want to not go to the tournament because I couldn't compete. I have all these people that like I help all the time, and I didn't really think of these people as my students at that time because like I was in the class with them. But then I kind of got out of the class and started teaching way more. And that's what I've really been doing for the past 4 years. It was been just teaching. And the teaching has allowed me to excel in my own learning because I want to be able to provide, you know, the the right type of energy and understanding to help people grow, because if I only have a certain level of understanding, but they're not at my level of understanding, then I'm not going to be able to help them grow. And I taught middle school and high school for 2 years. And what I learned when I was teaching middle school and high school was that you got to meet people where they're at. If you don't meet them where they're at, they're not going to go above where they are at. So that's what I started to learn as I got into this journey of teaching more. And that's why, I teach. I would still be competing, and everyone's always asking me why I don't compete. And it's like, because I got injured a lot. And then I was supposed to compete last year because my head was feeling better. And I fell off the balcony and I tore my meniscus. And I healed it by myself. I didn't go to the doctor. I didn't go to the hospital. I just did PT by myself and, did the right things. My knee's better. So,
So one thing that me and John Hackelman are always talking about, and
uh-huh.
you don't know who John Hackelman is, it's that's Chuck Liddell's coach. He's a UFC.
Shout out to John, man. I love John. I met him one time. He's chill.
So what he's always saying is you don't have to what was it? You don't have to drink to have a good time. So, and like the way he was trying to, his analogy was, a lot of people think that you have to drink to have a good time at a party or something, but you can just you can enjoy the party, you can still go dance, you can still have fun. And he was kind of making this analogy as far as training is concerned, is that kind of like, we know drinking damages you, right? Sparring damages you. There's no sugarcoating this. Full contact sparring and even light contact sparring has a risk of head injury. And if you already have traumatic head trauma, then that's damaging you. But there are ways to get better without that. There are ways to get better without head trauma. And this is something he said all the time. Now, we're not saying no sparring, but there are ways to spar. There are ways to hit to the body. You can still do phantom hits where you don't actually hit to the face to avoid that head trauma. And you can get better. You can still get better. And he did this with world-class UFC champions, right? They became UFC champions later. In a world where everybody has CTE and you got to work around it to try to still win your championship because your whole careers revolve around that. And they still became some of the most elite fighters. No one's going to question that Chuck Liddell, Glover Teixeira, and then Glover's student, Alex Pereira, are not world-class champions, right? But when you look at their training methodologies, there's actually not that much full contact sparring going on. There's a lot of drilling going on. There's a lot of technique practice going on, technical practice, technical sparring going on. And of course, right before the fight, a little more impact in the sparring to prepare them for what's about to happen in the cage. But if you're not a world-class UFC fighter, there's really no necessity to put yourself at risk. You can be just as good. Like I say this all the time, you can be just as good without the head trauma. And then all that's going to do, if you're going to try to live, I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm guessing you want to do this for the rest of your life. We all want to do this for the rest of our lives. And if we're going to
Yeah,
do this for the rest of our lives, we have to set up certain ways of training modalities to get better. That doesn't mean you can't get better. You can get hella good and not have to worry about something that's going to keep you from doing what you love. And then I'm
exactly.
going to try to get ahead of the internet trolls on this one. Some people love to criticize people for not being able to continue on a championship path, especially a young man like you who's in their 20s, not realizing that everyone's journey is individually different and not everybody has to be a UFC champion. Um, you can be just as good. There's people. Look, John Donner. John Donner has a very similar story of someone who ended up with terrible knee injuries that did not allow him to compete. There's a lot of stories about he didn't even compete. He didn't compete, hasn't won any championships, but has several world champion students under him.
Hmm.
Right. But he couldn't compete. So you actually competed. I know you mentioned what were some of the competitions you won? You already mentioned that you got first place at the KSDI tournament. What were some of the other tournaments, some of the other championships you won? Because you were dropping some stuff when I was talking to you.
I
About the
was
tournament.
I competed when I was younger in Taekwondo.
Mm-hmm.
At the LMA Open tournament. It was like one of the biggest Taekwondo tournaments in this area, I'm pretty sure. And I got silver in that. And then I never really competed outside of that.
Okay.
Like
So you won two championships. You got silver one
I don't
championship.
know if it was a championship. It might have just been a national tournament.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you won silver at one national tournament, and then you won gold at the Kajukenbo. Uh, they call it the World Championships. It's a tournament that's held once a year where all the
Yeah.
Kajukenbo members from around the world come and compete, and you won first place in that.
Yes,
So
sir.
to get ahead of the trolls, because that's what I'm always. I consider that my side job is to get ahead of the trolls.
Yeah.
A lot of people will criticize point sparring. But
Uh-huh.
for someone like yourself who is taking a huge risk because you already have a traumatic brain injury coming in,
Yeah.
any hit can set you back a lot, right?
Exactly.
So you already competed twice. You've already won two tournaments, and you cannot. I mean, you can. I totally understand why your instructor would be like, I don't want you sparring anymore. And if I were your instructor, I'd be like, I don't want you competing anymore.
Yeah.
Now, that's hard to hear. I'm sure. I'm sure that's really hard to
Yeah.
hear. But if I were your instructor, I'd be telling you that. Now, I'm not going to tell your instructor what to do, and he can do whatever it is, and you can see your life, and if everyone's free to do whatever the hell they want. But,
Exactly.
but, but, um, but this is something that I think not enough people on the internet think about because they're just so used to seeing elite, like getting a glimpse of the elite and feeling like they're a part of something bigger when really they're just sitting on their couch looking at their phone or sitting in their bed doom scrolling, right? So like unless you've actually been in it, right? And then there's people who've actually been in it, and that's good for you. If your journey is one of those as a coach or as a person who had a traumatic brain injury and you kept going forward, well, that's good for you. You're one of the lucky ones because I know plenty of people that were not one of the lucky ones that
Hmm.
that life really fell apart for them. And
Exactly.
even some of the elite, there's plenty of stories I can start pulling up. Look at BJ Penn. Oh, look at BJ Penn right now.
Yeah.
BJ Penn right now just domestic violence charges against him from his own mother because of traumatic brain injury. He got some
Yeah.
weird degenerative disease where he can't recognize his own family members and he thinks they're trying to kill him. So he kept calling the police on his own family members until finally he actually got into an altercation with his own mother. And then now, I forgot if they're pressing charges or he's risking jail time right now. Just to
Yeah.
give you one example, I can keep going down the list, but
There's that WWE guy that killed his whole family
oh,
because of CTE. Yeah, he killed like his wife and his daughter or his kid or something like that. And he killed himself. So CTE is a big deal, 100%. And sometimes I feel it, you know, sometimes I got headaches or whatever, and just randomly, but it's gotten better. like that's what I will tell you. Like, because there's a lot of stuff coming out right now about fasting and how fasting regenerates your cells and puts you in a state of autophagy, and how that can help not only like brain cells, but also like, cells in your body replenish and repair themselves. So that mixed with, I went on a raw diet where I only ate raw fruits and vegetables, and like that healed all my problems that I had. I had like stomach issues for like 2 years. All that went away. Like, and your stomach is your second brain. If your stomach isn't working, bro, like you gotta get that figured out. Like if you got stomach problems and you're still eating food, you're blowing it. Like you shouldn't be eating anything if you got stomach problems, because you need to let your body re-heal itself. We have such an amazing vessel, and a lot of people don't utilize it. And then something else that a lot of people might judge, but it's been used for thousands and thousands of years. Psilocybin, microdosing psilocybin regrows nerves and helps create new neural pathways. And that has helped me a lot. I used to smoke weed. I smoked weed for 7 years, and I'm sober, and it was ruining my life. And I was smoking too much of it, and it just wasn't good for me. Right. And um, psilocybin helped me quit weed. I tried to quit weed for 3 years. I couldn't do it. Psilocybin helped me quit weed. Um, and I don't like take 8 grams, bro. I'm not going crazy, but like it's a microdose,
Well, there's a difference before and then for anybody who's hating, for anybody who's hating on that, and for those of you who don't know what psilocybin is, they're also known as mushrooms, right? Like mushroom. There's actually now a synthetic form of it though too. Like it used to be, my generation used to call them mushrooms, but then recently, because of how the laws have worked, there's actually a synthetic form of psilocybin now where they actually extract just the psilocybin itself.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, there are a lot of research studies coming out right now about microdosing, not actually using it. And if you actually look at okay, if you look at how Native Americans used it, indigenous people,
Mm-hmm.
they actually used it for medicinal purposes. And a lot of the research that was starting to get done from psychology started through cultural anthropological studies, which is right up my alley as far as psychology is concerned. And I remember about, when was this? This is before I left to the US, when I was working on my bachelor's in psychology, and I was at a research conference, and I met a professor from Arizona State University, and he was a psychological professor, and he was talking about how he was studying indigenous people and specifically psilocybin use for exactly what you just talked about, neuroplasticity and growing new neural pathways. And again, microdosing. And there's a big difference between using it for recreational use
It's
to,
cool.
which is fine. I'm not,
Yeah.
again, I said earlier, I'm not judging you. You do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's a big
Yeah.
judgment. You do what you want. But it's one thing to use it for recreational use. But from what he was talking about, how microdosing works was the idea of using it in paired with, in his situation, he was pairing it with cognitive behavioral psychology, CBT, as well. So he was
Okay.
actually doing microdoses. He was running a research study where they were doing microdoses of psilocybin while going through cognitive behavioral psychology therapeutic sessions. So they would microdose before the session, and he was looking at the differences in neuroplasticity and all that stuff. He was doing brain scans as well, and he
Yeah.
showed me some of his research. So there's a lot of that was back then. Now, like I looked at the research now, it's like that work has really developed into its own field.
It's
So yeah,
amazing.
I mean, like, yeah, everything you said is on point to what I've seen out of things, like as far as from my end. Now,
Yeah, it definitely works. I mean, it's just allowing yourself different ways to heal. And I feel like, not only bringing up psychological trauma, which can also alter, physicality and neuroplasticity in the brain, cutting things off from your past and repression, and you have a background in psychology. All that plays a part in everything, right? And I don't got any degrees, just saying that, but I'm very avid reader. I study a lot. So what I do 95% of my time is study, learning new things. And, books like Supernatural, right? Becoming Supernatural. Uh, what's the Dr. Joe Dispenza? He talks about how to basically make yourself superhuman, right? Um, and how to change your brain through not only just positive thoughts, which we know work, but things like things like understanding that you don't have to feel a certain way, understanding that you are not your thoughts, things like that, which are very powerful. And even in my speech, like, it's very rare to hear me ever say this person made me mad, or this made me angry, or this is pissing me off. And it's because then you give the power to whatever that thing is, right? And I just heard an amazing quote the other day. um it was something like, anger is a emotional punishment you give yourself for someone else's actions,
Oh yeah.
which is beautiful, and it puts it into perspective. And anyone that really knows me in real life, they know I don't get angry. It's not that I'm trying to be better than other people that I don't get angry, but it's just for me, for my own personal psychology. Because I understand that if I'm angry all the time, then I'm gonna lead like that in my life, and I won't get the outcome I desire. And it's like it's the question of alchemy, right? Carl Jung, he talks about, transmuting one thing to the next. And that's what I think thoughts are. It's just alchemy. That's all I do with my thoughts. If I have bad thoughts, I just don't have bad thoughts. And it might seem asinine to some
Well,
people.
no, like so in cognitive behavioral psychology, we say you are what you think. And people say
100%.
you are what you eat is what doctors say, but you are what you think. So what you consume, what you read, and also what you think of yourself is what you will be. And that's the core thoughts of cognitive behavioral psychology. We try to get the root. If we can go after your cognitive biases, if we can go after your repeating thoughts and the what you see, if we can get it at the root, then we can change the outcome. And
Yes.
the more you understand that you are the captain of your ship, you are your thoughts, then you can have more control over the outcome. A lot of people feel that things are happening to them, not realizing that things are happening to them. And sometimes you have no control over that, but you do have a control over how you react to it.
100%.
And you can, and through that you can have a little more control on how you handle that. And that's exactly what you're tapping into with everything you just said. Now
Yes.
we went a really side tangent there, but I like it. And
It's a great,
unfortunately we're almost out of
great
time.
conversation.
Unfortunately, we're
Oh,
almost out of time because of that.
it is what it is, man.
But before we wrap up, I'm
Yes.
gonna reel us back into martial arts real quick. um so we touched on, we went in a direction that I had no idea we'd end up in, and as a lot of times happens in my show.
So how conversations are supposed to go, man.
Right. But I think it is interesting how as a young person you're dealing with some real heavy things that a lot of people older than you haven't maybe even considered. And I think from what you've just described, you're kind of in a weird place because at 20 you're still very young, you still have a lot of life, there's a lot of stuff left that's going to happen in your life, right? And
Mhm.
you're kind of starting life from an older perspective. How am I going to put this? So my dad died when I was 25, and my mom left when I was a teenager, so I was living with my dad. So I pretty much became semi-orphaned at 25, and I was already married. I got married when I was 22.
Okay.
So I had a lot of stuff happening right before 25. So I understand what it's like to be very young, but have a lot of stuff happen that happens to older people usually, but still have everyone talk down to you all the time because you're really young. Right. So
Yeah.
I get that. I get that feeling quite a bit because it's something at 43 people still talk down to me. Like it's like this thing, like, and
Yeah.
especially in the martial arts because we have ranks, so you're always gonna have this like there's a respect in martial arts, but there's also this thing where you're always kind of be a kid, and I'm like, oh, I guess
Mhm.
I'll be a kid till I'm 70, I guess. Like I'm at 43, people still treat me like I thought when I was 25 my dad died, And before he died, he's like, "You're the man of the house now." I'm like, "I'm the man of the house now." And in my household, I was the man. Like
Yeah.
even my older uncles all saw me as like he's the guy. He's the guy to go to now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
but outside of that, in the martial arts, I was still being treated as a kid. So like, so like,
That's how it goes, man.
it's just how it is, right? So you're kind of tackling this stuff now, right? You're only 20, and
Mm-hmm.
you're tackling these big heavy issues, bro. Like dealing with a traumatic brain injury and restarting your life at 20 when there's still so many years left. So I guess the question, maybe you don't have an answer for it, but what are you gonna do now? What are your plans? You got 5 minutes to answer this question.
Man, that's
no,
perfect.
no pressure, but
Look, look, and I've been, man, I got a few things happening, right? I make music, so that's always gonna be something I do. That's kind of my therapy. I never did therapy growing up. That might be bad for me. It never affected me like that. I make music. That's my therapy. Um, and so I'm always gonna do that. And I want to keep this martial arts thing going. So like the content for me, I make a lot of martial arts content for people that don't know. That content for me has been a way for me to express my passion in a way that is more safe, right? I still get a lot of hate. It's always gonna come, but
always,
it's
always.
more safe that way because I'm not necessarily always getting hit and punched in the face and stuff. Now that happens, but that for me is kind of gone like kind of my gateway to really monetize my martial arts journey. Now I do want to go pro for an MMA, and I'm training for that right now to go pro in January, February kind of time. And it might not work out that way, but I do want to get into that physical and mental condition to do that. So even if I don't end up going pro, which I 100% plan to, I am taking the route of like I'm going to do this. If it doesn't work out, at least I gained what I did. At least I gained the experience of going through that, putting myself through that psychological pressure, which helps you grow. Psychological pressure helps people grow. People are scared of it. They run away from it. That's why they never grow mentally. But I've always faced pressure in my life. So, I mean, now I need to put myself in more pressure so I can grow. And I'm gonna learn a lot about myself. And a lot of people ask me about, going amateur first. No, I don't want to. I don't want to. And my philosophy behind this, I don't want to I don't want to potentially injure myself very badly or injure someone else very badly for free. And where I live in Washington State, there's no rule or stipulation that says you have to go amateur first. So, um, and I hate to like tell people I'm very good, but I think I'm very good. So, anything can happen. Anything can happen in the fight. I hate when people are like, "Oh, well, what if he does this and this and this?" Well, I can say the same thing. What if I do this and this? It doesn't matter. What matters is that I've always wanted to do this thing. And it's going to be for me. I'm not doing it to win. I'm not doing it for people to think I'm this great fighter. I'm doing it because I've always wanted to be a professional athlete. That's what I've always wanted to do. I used to play basketball. I did semi-professional ultimate frisbee for a while. That was fire. I was very good at ultimate frisbee. So it's like something where it's like I have this competitive side to me that I don't get to show a lot because I have to be very humbled, not humble, but very humbled by teaching people and, letting them hit me all the time and letting them take me to the ground. And that type of stuff humbles you as a person. And I think now it's time for me to kind of step away from that teaching role all the time, 100% of the time, into my own training and do it for myself. And I look at people like Bruce Lee as a very great example of someone that had a lot of skill, but didn't compete. And maybe it's because he didn't have any desire to compete. But, it could be my ego, it could be me just like outside of myself, just being someone that wants to prove something. It could be that. And I could be, deflecting. I could be being defensive. No, I'm not egoic. But any type of outside pursuit is egoic. If it's not samadhi, it's egoic. You're you're not letting go. I'm chasing something. which is egoic in itself. So if I am doing that, I might as well do it for a good reason, show other people. Because there's not a lot of people with an afro that look like me doing martial arts. There really isn't. And I've helped a lot of people in my city and where I'm at. Like I'm the example, right? A leader doesn't talk about going a leader. A leader go like about being a leader. A leader goes first, right? That's what a leader does. I'm gonna go first, and maybe other people will follow along. Maybe they'll stop shooting each other. Like maybe they'll stop being in gangs. Maybe they'll stop selling drugs. Maybe they'll see that there's other stuff to do out here, and that's really my goal. And if I don't end up going pro, at least I showed people, hey, look, you can get in peak physical condition, and if you have injuries, or if you don't feel good about yourself, or if you don't have confidence, you can have all that. If you just put in the work, that's what matters. I'm gonna document my journey, and I mean, I really do want to go pro, so we'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So yeah, that's my answer. That's my answer to you. That's what I'm gonna do.
All right. Well, I wish you all the best with all your
Yes.
goals, and keep me posted with your MMA career.
Yes,
We'll,
sir.
we'll have you come out. We'll definitely have more of these conversations. And
Yeah.
for those of you checking out Social Gello with Angelo podcast, we have one of these a week. Before we go, Lazarus, where can people find you online?
On TikTok, my name is Bruce Lazroy. Uh, all capital LAZ. Bruce underscore Lazroy, because people always compare me to Bruce Leroy from Last Dragon. So Bruce Lazroy on TikTok, and then on Instagram it's Laz, the number 4 and real. So Laz for real. And then on YouTube you can find me at Life Combat Skills, which is my LLC, Life Combat Skills dash Lazarus Hunter. So
And
you
then
know,
for the YouTube, Lazarus in future present talk, he sent me the link. So right here, if you click right here on the link, it'll take you right to his YouTube channel.
okay, I appreciate you, man.
All right. All right. So one of these a week, and we'll catch you next time.
Yes, sir.
This has been a Social Gello production. If you're interested in being on the show, feel free to reach out. Just email me at socialgello@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow me on social media, Instagram, Social Gello, Facebook, Social Gello with Angelo, or follow me on my personal page under Angelo Ferrer. LinkedIn, search Angelo Ferrer. YouTube, if you're listening to this on a podcast platform, make sure to check out my YouTube channel, Social Gello with Angelo YouTube channel. And wherever you're listening, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform, make sure to follow and subscribe and leave a review. Thanks again for tuning in. See you next time.